Triple C approach for prelims. When I say triple C approach, concepts related to that particular topic, current affairs related to that particular topic. Apart from that, current data. From where we get current data, sir? Budget document is released, economic survey is released. Actually, you need not read every paper in budget. You need not read every page in economic survey. There would be some obvious data. Obvious data means some macroeconomic indicators. So only summary of economic survey, only summary of the budget. I'll tell you how to read. First read national income, then read national income from economic survey, then read national income from the budget. Don't try to remember everything. Look at only obvious data. That is how you're supposed to look at. Suppose you have done external sector, then external sector economic survey, external sector budget. Just estimations only numbers. Because sometimes maybe 1 or 2 questions that are directly picking up the data from economic survey and budget. Rarely 1 or 2 only. 90 to 95% of the economic questions are from concepts only. So from national income, if you look at previous year question themes, so what are all the various themes which were asked? So I'm talking about this basic. If you look at income definition, types of income, what is included in income, what is excluded in income, regular repeated questions. So one of the previous year questions themes. Apart from that, examiner's favorite questions, sectors of the economy. Primary sectors, secondary sector, tertiary sector, real sector, non-real sector. Regularly match the following: correctly matched, incorrectly matched, something like that. Apart from that, measurements. When you say measurements, GDP, GNP, NDP, NNP, comparison, how they are calculated, all that. Then in measurements also, regular repeated themes is types of GDP. If you look at nominal GDP, real GDP, potential GDP, green GDP, why GDP is a good measure of economic indicator? Do you think it's the only way of indicator? Now, apart from that, methods of estimation of national income. And recent current affairs, if you look at, have you seen something called IMF giving C rating to India's NSO? I feel this might be expected question because this is from current affairs topic. Apart from that, if you are reading newspaper regularly, even the budget, so there is a proposal to revise base year. Revision of the base year in the current affairs? Yes, IMF rating also in the current affairs. Apart from that, regular application concepts they're asking from business cycles. When I say business cycles, it's like boom, slowdown, recession, depression. In boom, what to do? In slowdown, what to do? In recession, what to do? All that. Plus, rarely questions are asked from a concept called recovery. D-shaped recovery, K-shaped recovery, W-shaped recovery, U-shaped recovery. All this we are going to cover. Don't worry. All this I am going to cover in today's class. So, how do I know? My preparation is complete in national income. If you have clarity about all these things, and immediately you should solve previous year prelims questions from this chapter. If you are able to solve 50, not 100%, 50 only, dear. 50% of the questions if you are able to get correct, means your preparation is on the right track. Sir, why only 50%, sir? Because you read only one time. Second time revision, again if you solve, the percentage and the accuracy would improve. If you do at least 2-3 times revision, you will get 90 to 95% of the questions correct. Okay, so this is how you're supposed to prepare. So don't depend upon market compilations, because I advise not to take any compilations, because ultimately your own handwritten notes is the best revision notes. That is according to my opinion. So probably at the end of the class, if you have all theme only, no need to write regular notes, not all, just theme only if you know, more than enough. Okay, so again in the recent times, new trend is observed from 2023 where examiner is asking a question in which 2-3 statements will be given. One statement from national income, one statement from inflation, one statement from monetary policy. So this is a new trend that is being observed in UPSC prelims. Apart from that, one more trend last year they started. Instead of asking the concept, they are giving the numbers and asking you to apply. which means they'll give national income, they'll give taxes, they'll ask you to calculate something. So it's very easy only. If your concepts are clear, 99% answer will be correct. So just let me spend some time on basic concepts only to get into right. I'll be asking you previous year questions also so that you'll get a clarity. So first and foremost question, why should we calculate national income? So all of you know, national income calculated as measurement of economic growth. So all associated concept of economic growth, economic development, inclusive growth, financial inclusion, and there is expected prelims question from this concept called Kuznets curve. Now what is economic growth, sir? So measurement of wealth in a nation which is measured through some measurement, meaning probably estimation of production of goods and services at their market prices. That is called as economic growth. So what is economic growth? Material estimation of goods and services which are produced in a country is called as economic growth. We are growing. What does it mean? We are producing more goods and services. So to understand economic growth, first concept is economic activity. What is the meaning of economic activity, sir? We are using factors of production. What are factors of production? Land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship, for which return is paid. Any activity if you are performing with expectation of return, that is called as economic activity. So you are coming to the class. Is it economic activity? Very much economic activity. Return will not come now. When return will come? IAS, IPS, IRS. When cadre allocation comes, return will come. It is economic activity, dear. You are not coming here just for time pass. You are coming here with an expectation of return. What is the return? Good marks in the exam. With that, what you are going to get? Into service. So there is a return, but return is not coming immediately. Can we say that? Now, friend is coughing in the class. You are giving water bottle to friend. Is it economic activity? Oh my dear. Why it's not economic activity? No expectation at all. No expectation at all. So preparing for UPSC, economic activity or not? Yes, dear, but return may not come now. Return may come in the future. Understood the definition of economic activity? Now, this economic activity is broadly classified into various sectors, regular repeated things in the prelims. Primary sector, secondary sector, service sector, quaternary sector, queenary sector, and there is a word called real sector. So what is primary sector, sir? Something which deals with exploration of natural resources, something which provides basic raw materials, that is called as primary sector. So agriculture, animal husbandry, mining, forestry, aquaculture, all these are dealing with raw materials, providing raw materials and dealing with exploration of natural resources. That is called as primary sector. Okay. Secondary sector. What is secondary sector, sir? Something which converts basic raw materials into finished products by giving place utility, time utility, shape utility is called as secondary sector. So you are sitting in the chair. This chair is made up of raw materials, wood, iron, whatever. So the process of converting raw materials into finished product is called as secondary sector, manufacturing sector. So you are writing in a notebook. From where that notebook is made up of? Probably basic raw material is maybe from forestry. So forestry is providing a basic raw material. So timber depot is converting. From there the manufacturing started. So finally that book called notebook got prepared. So primary raw material for which shape is given, time is given, and it is made available from production point to consumption point. So what secondary sector is trying to do? Add place utility, shape utility, time utility for a raw material. What do you mean of time utility? How many days you can store probably rose? 1 day or 2 days. But we make into rose water, we convert into rose perfume. You can increase the time. So that is called as secondary sector. Service sector. What is meaning of service sector, sir? Services are intangible. However, they are trying to help us in value addition and distribution function, which are called as service sector. So goods are tangible, whereas services are intangible. So whenever we say, you go to a shopping mall, what you buy is the good. How the staff behaves with you is service. So you are going to prepare for civil services. You are going to prepare for civil services, service. So primary sector, secondary sector, service sector is the basic classification for national income estimation. But in the recent times, in current affairs, there are two more sectors which are regularly used, which are called as quaternary sector and quinary sector. So what is this quaternary sector? What is this quinary sector? See, in India, who will estimate national income? Officially, NSO, National Statistical Office. Earlier we used to call it as CSO. However, for all calculation purpose, if you look at right now, we consider economic activities into three sectors only: primary, secondary, and service. But some of the countries, they are also using other classifications which are called as quaternary sector and quinary sector. So what is meaning of quaternary sector, sir? So in the recent times, for following newspaper, QUATERNARY, spelling is quaternary. So what is this quaternary sector, sir? Quaternary sector means in the recent times, knowledge-based activities, research and development, intellectual property rights should be considered as separate sector. That is called as quaternary sector. Now actually in India, we are considering them as part of service sector only. What is intellectual property rights? Patent, copyright, trademark, GI. So this should be considered as separate sector. In simple, knowledge-based activities, intellectual related activities, intellectual property rights should be considered as separate sector. Of course, it's nothing but service sector only. Then quinary sector. So what is quinary sector, sir? So again, in the recent times, so in different countries, how can you say that USA is economically powerful? Why USA is powerful? Why everybody is thinking USA as superpower? What is the reason? Whoever is technologically powerful, whoever is economically powerful, they'll be politically powerful. Very simple logic. Whoever is technologically powerful, economically powerful, they'll be politically powerful. So the reason for a nation's development, the reason for an organization's development, it is because of top level decision making. So in economy, in various sectors, at multiple places, there are different top level decision making people. Those top level decision making people should be considered as separate sector, which is called as quinary sector. In a university, who is the top level decision making authority? Vice Chancellor and probably academic council. So in a company, who is the top level decision making? Board of directors, MD and CEO. So which means this high level decision making should be considered as separate sector. That is called as quinary sector. This is called as quaternary sector. Previous year question based on this. Real sector, non-real sector. Real sector means something which is related to production of goods and services. Really you're doing economic activity. Really you're producing. That's why that is called as real sector. Non-real sector means what? Through that goods and services are not produced. That is called as non-real sector. Example, suppose in real estate we are constructing a building. So we are producing something. You are producing something. Earlier building was not there, now building are produced. I think so. In real estate. Okay. In agriculture, what is happening? By using that land, we are producing some crops. So are the real sector? Yes. What about banking? In case of banking, what is happening? Just money is moving from one to another. There is a transfer of money. So you have a bank account. From your account, bank is giving loan to me. So money is getting transferred from one to another. However, real economic activity of production is not happening. So it is not a real sector. Did you understand the meaning of the word? One more example to understand real sector. So in a financial market, if you buy share, mutual fund, whatever, your money is becoming capital to others. Your money is becoming capital to others. It's a transfer of money from one to another. Whereas in primary sector, secondary sector, what is happening? You can see the goods which are produced in real. That's why that is called as real sector. There what is happening? Transfer of money is happening. Real production of the goods and services is not happening. That's why that is called as real sector, non-real sector. So one of the previous year prelims question is, match the following economic activity and sectors. Water purification. Which sector, dear? Water purification, which sector? Primary sector, secondary sector, service sector? No, sir, we are not drinking water, sir. Come on, dear. Water purification. Primary sector? Secondary sector. Why, dear? Why secondary sector? Very good. Processing of the basic raw water is called as secondary sector. Packaging of the water? Service sector. Understood? Again, so if you look at IT enabled services and software, name itself says IT enabled services and software. Which sector? Service sector. Correct? Now if you look at the economic survey, if you look at the budget, how questions are being framed from this? Look at 1950s. Look at 2010. Look at 2025. There is a structural shift in India's contribution of service sector. You need not remember the numbers. You need to understand the trend. So in 1950s, almost 60% of our national income is to come from primary sector. Around 25 to 30% used to come from secondary sector. So less than 20% only used to come from service sector. But look at today, what is happening? There is a structural shift. What is meaning of structural shift, sir? From primary sector, less than 15% of national income is coming. From service sector, look at 55% of income is coming. So roughly in the range of 15 to 18%, 55 to 60% is coming from service sector. So industrial sector growth somewhere between 25 to 28 getting stagnated. Now look at based on this observation. India is primarily service sector based economy in terms of livelihood. India is primarily service sector based economy in terms of livelihood. Answer is no. Because question is not about national income contribution. Question is about livelihood. Livelihood means number of people who are dependent. Answer is India is primarily service sector based economy in terms of income generation. Look at the trap in the prelims. India is primarily service sector based economy in terms of income generation, not in terms of livelihood. Here, 45 to 50% of India's population still depend upon agriculture. It appears that secondary sector growth got stagnated for several decades. It appears that secondary sector growth got stagnated for several decades. Meaning economic survey numbers I am telling. No need to remember all the numbers, trend only. It appears that there is a structural shift in the Indian economy in terms of income generation from primary to service sector. Meaning once upon a time, major source of income was primary sector. Now major source of income is service sector. Okay. So one more previous year question based on this. Arrange the following sectors in the order, ascending order, descending order, in terms of trap, in terms of employment generation, in terms of national income generation. Did you understand? So income generation, highest is service sector, next is secondary sector, next is primary sector. What about employment generation or livelihood dependence? Reverse. Understood? So this is a trap. Be careful in exam whether they're asking about income generation or livelihood. Or one statement may be from income generation, one statement may be from livelihood. And last year prelims, Just they gave economic activity, match the following with the sectors. So food processing comes under which sector? Name itself says processing, secondary sector. Okay. Now, designing of a dress, not the production, designing of the dress. Come on dear, designing of a dress, fashion designing. It's okay. Maybe just tell primary, secondary, tertiary sector only. Definitely not primary sector. Okay. Between second and service sector, fashion designing, madam. Why service sector? Why not secondary sector? Invisible effort to plan how to produce. In a garment factory, when you apply the design and produce, that is secondary sector. Designing of how to produce, look at the word. Designing of how to produce. Intangible effort, invisible effort. So primary sector or secondary sector or service sector? Service sector, understood? Now, so be careful, look at the economic activity. Exploration of natural resources, production of basic raw materials, primary sector. Processing of it, converting of it, secondary sector. Value addition, invisible, intangible, any mental effort comes under service sector. So regular repeated prelims themes, don't miss the questions. Whether they ask sectoral contribution, whether they ask real sector or non-real sector, whether they give economic activity and match the following. Sectors also you should be able to understand. Probably if you look at economic survey, look at the data. Last, according to economic survey, primary sector rough number, secondary sector rough number, service sector rough number. Need not remember exact data. Sometimes sectoral trend may be asked in the exam. So this is very basic for national income chapter called economic activity, and sometimes very fundamental question was asked. Match the following, return for the factors of the production. So for land, what is paid? So rent is paid. For labor, what is paid? So for capital, what is paid? Interest. Correct only? So for entrepreneurship, what is paid? Correctly matched, incorrectly matched. Previous year prelims question. See, look at how easy question they're asking. Of course, easy only when we know the question. So factors of production, correctly matched, incorrectly matched. Now if you just apply this logic, there are three words related to it. Economic development, inclusive growth, financial inclusion, and Kuznets curve. This is being discussed, so we might expect this year prelims. Now what is economic development, sir? Just increase in material wealth is economic growth. Along with the increase in material wealth, improvement in living standards of people is called as economic development. Economic growth is quantitative, economic development is qualitative. Meaning, not only material wealth in terms of production of goods and services should increase, but also there should be a development in social indicators, health, education, standard of living. So two interfaces. Economic growth is about material wealth. Economic development is material wealth plus, look at the word, material wealth plus social development indicator should improve. That is called as economic development. Based on these two interface, previous year question. Economic growth will always lead to economic development. Is this statement correct? Always, look at the word. Trap in the prelims. Economic growth will always lead to economic development. No. If that is the case, why India is still a developing country from last 77 years? Growth is happening. Growth is happening. But growth may not always lead to development. All students in the class are listening to the class. Is this statement correct? Who told, sir? Who told? Always. All. That is the trap. Economic growth may sometimes lead to economic development. Some of you may be listening to the class. Economic growth may sometimes lead to economic development. Yes, sometimes. Third statement. Economic growth is a precondition for economic development. Meaning it, without economic growth, development will not take place. Yes? Understood? This is the previous year question. Three statements based on what is economic growth, what is economic development. In the recent times, two words are becoming popular. jobless growth, exclusive growth. Now to address these two words came again. See, what is this jobless growth? India's growth is being criticized as jobless growth and exclusive growth. Meaning, our GDP is growing somewhere around 7 to 7.5 in the range, but corresponding number of jobs are not getting created. Meaning, we are growing, but at the same time, expected number of jobs are not getting created. So, India's growth is criticized as jobless growth. Exclusive growth. What is exclusive growth, sir? Only some people are getting benefited out of India's economic growth. So many people are left out from the benefits of economic growth, which is called as exclusive growth. So to address these two words came inclusive growth and financial inclusion. So what is inclusive growth, sir? The benefits of economic growth should be fairly redistributed to all. Not only some areas, not only some sections should get the benefits of the economic growth. Equitable distribution of the resources, fair and equitable distribution of benefits, and wealth should not be in the hands of only some rich people. Wealth should be redistributed. Andru baundali, andulo mana undali. That is called as inclusive growth. In a Prime Minister's language, sabka saath, sabka vikas, sabka prayas, sabka vishwas. That is called as inclusive growth. That is the theme of Niti Aayog. Sabka saath, sabka vikas, sabka prayas, sabka vishwas is the tagline of Niti Aayog. Inclusive growth. So got clarity? Inclusive growth, exclusive growth, jobless growth. Related theme only was called as Hindu growth rate. See, once upon a time, our GDP growth rate was never crossing not more than 4%, and more unstable growth was there, which was given by Professor Radhakrishna, which was referred as Hindu growth rate. So which means initial days of India's independence, up to some decades, our GDP growth rate was so unstable, average GDP growth rate never crossed not more than 4%, which was criticized as Hindu growth rate. Okay, now look at whatever word comes, you should be able to answer. Hindu growth rate, jobless growth, exclusive growth, inclusive growth, economic growth, economic development. Now, financial inclusion will cover in banking also once again. Fintech products, banking and financial services should be available to all. That is called as financial inclusion. Combining all these concepts, there is one term, Kuznets curve. Now, what is this Kuznets curve? What does this Kuznets curve says? Kuznets curve says that initially, when economic growth is happening in a country, income inequalities also increase in a country. However, over a period of time, when economic growth gets transformed into economic development, look at the word economic development, income inequality is supposed to decrease. What does Kuznets curve says? Simon Kuznets, the person who gave the concepts of national income, told that initially when economic growth is happening in a country, income inequalities will increase. However, when economic growth becomes economic development, accessibility to healthcare, education, services is increasing. Socialistic welfare policies are making that the wealth is being redistributed. Income inequalities would decrease. But surprisingly, India's case, Kuznets curve is not working. What does it mean? Income inequalities which are supposed to decrease is not decreasing. That's the reason why that concept is in the news. Understood? So this is called as Kuznets curve, combining the concept of economic growth and combining the concept of economic development with respect to redistribution of wealth. So this is one more theme where regularly questions are coming from. So if you remember, Hindu growth, exclusive growth, jobless growth, inclusive growth, financial inclusion. Just now I covered something called Kuznets curve. Now these are very basic essential concepts which will help in understanding the very important theme of national income. What is income? How income is defined? What are the types of income? So if you look at it, Return paid for the factors of production in the process of economic activity is called as income. Meaning for land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship, return paid only is called as income. So national income, per capita income, disposable income, notional income, real income, nominal income. So probably previous year questions also are based on these themes. So for this you need to understand two words: concept of labor force, concept of workforce. So people in the age group of 15 to 59 years, we are expecting them to work legally because Article 21A. What does Article 21A says? Children in the age group of 6 to 14 years have to go to school, they have to become unemployed, they have to come to Ashok Nagar later. I mean, that is not mentioned, but right to education guarantees children in the age group of below 14 years should not work. So 15, for most of the jobs, retirement age is 60, entry is blocked at 59. So we consider, in India's case, labor force definition as people in the age group of 15 to 59 years were expected to work. But in some states, 62 also, some states, 65 also. Workforce. Who is called as workforce? People who are earning either through organized or unorganized sector is called as workforce. Are you part of labor force or workforce? No sir, Air Force sir, right now. No dear. Right now you are labor force. Once you start earning, you will become workforce. So what is the definition of national income? Income of all workforce in one financial year in primary sector, secondary sector, service sector is called as national income. So what is national income definition? Easiest definition: income of all workforce in one financial year. In what sector, sir? Primary sector, secondary sector, service sector is called as national income. In your family, income of the family means how many are earning in the family? One or two? Father, mother, brother, sister, probably siblings. So look at how much is dependent population. So look at workforce, look at labor force. Exactly in our country also, income of all the working population is called as national income. Per capita income. What is meaning of per capita income, sir? This is the criteria based on which countries are classified into high income country, middle income country, low income country. Meaning developed country, developing country, least developed country. Now there is a current affairs topic here which we can expect in the exam. Middle income trap. So this is current affairs newspaper. If you are following newspaper, middle income trap for India. Why, sir? Based on per capita income, earlier we were classifying India as a developing country. Now also we are classifying it as a developing country. Now what's meaning of middle income trap? In less time, a country would come out from least developed to developing, meaning low income to middle income. A country is struggling to come out of middle income stage to go to high income. It is taking very long time, which is called as middle income trap. Now why this middle income trap, sir? Because our governments have to spend most of the money on infrastructure and capital expenditure. However, because of World Bank politics, we are forced to announce so many freebies. So, out of borrowing, out of government expenditure, a percentage of capital expenditure is more. If you spend on infrastructure, if we create employment opportunities, our income would increase in the future. Unfortunately, we are focusing on balancing both, but we are tilting more towards welfare policy measures, freebie measures. So infrastructure is not getting developed adequately. So it's taking a lot of time for us to come out of middle income stage. That's why that's called as middle income trap. Able to follow? So for the last 77 years, India is still classified as only middle income country, meaning developing country only. Means what? Adequate infrastructure development, adequate capital expenditure, policy reforms, institutional upgradations, capacity building is not happening as expected. What is the meaning of developed country? Per capita income should increase. When per capita income increase, when percentage of more workforce increases, dependent population decreases, automatically per capita income will increase. Did you understand what I'm saying? In this context only, so economic advisor said that UPSC is not waste of time. He said, students are spending so much of time on UPSC preparation. In the process, they are not learning any skills. So if they don't get selected by mistake, India is losing so much of workforce and national income and per capita income. That is the context in which he told. Meaning, out of 10 lakh people, only 1,000 people get selected. What about remaining 9,90,000 people? If they had worked in some industry somewhere, average is 5 lakhs. Just imagine how much opportunity cost of India's per capita income. He did not say don't prepare for UPSC. He did not say it's waste of time. He said in the context of opportunity cost. What's the meaning of opportunity cost? Because you are making one choice, whatever you are losing is called as opportunity cost. Value of next best alternative is called as opportunity cost. So anyway, then one more current affairs word is there. Goldilocks economy. So which is mentioned in our economic survey also, budget also. Current affairs theme. What is the meaning of Goldilocks economy, sir? GOLDI. Goldilocks economy means macroeconomic position where inflation is under control, growth rate is relatively stable, external sector is, we are having resilience towards external sector. So government has the flexibility to announce the policies. Combination is called as Goldilocks economy, meaning inflation is within control, GDP growth rate is relatively stable, external sector resilience is there, which means we have good enough forex reserves. So if any economy has these positive indicators, that is referred as Goldilocks economy. So when we say India is in Goldilocks economy, what does it mean? Inflation relatively for the last 1 year is under control. Our GDP growth rate is relatively stable. India's forex reserves are touching $700 billion. Our forex reserves today is touching $700 billion. Meaning it's an ideal condition in which government has the flexibility to announce its priority areas, its focused areas. That is called as Goldilocks economy. Expected themes for the prelims, either middle income trap or Goldilocks economy. Okay? Now, what is disposable income, sir? From the total income of a person, whatever taxes that they are supposed to pay, applicable direct taxes, remaining is ready to be spent, which is called as disposable income. Disposable means what? Ready to be spent. A person's monthly salary is 1 lakh. Income tax applicable is 10%. So that is deducted. Remaining 90,000 is transferred to her account, which is ready to be disposed. That's why that is called as disposable income. But in the exam, previous year question, relationship is asked. If government increases direct taxes, what happens to disposable income? Suppose income tax rate is increased. What happens to disposable income? Will decrease. So what is the relationship between direct taxes and disposable income? Directly proportional, inversely proportional? Inversely proportional. Person salary is 10 lakhs, income tax is 10%. Disposable income is 9 lakhs. Person's income is 10 lakhs, income tax rate is 20%. Disposable income is 8 lakhs. So person's income is 10 lakhs, income tax rate is 5%. Disposable income is 9.5. So what is the relationship between direct tax and disposable income? Inversely proportional. Previous year question. So very simple. Then notional income. Expected possible income for economic activity in the future is called as notional income. So if a boy gets selected for civil services, he may get 500 crore dowry. What are you saying, sir? Not enough, sir. One more zero, sir. Notional. Expected possible income in the future. If economic activity gets completed, that is called as notional. Now what is real income, sir? When you go to the market, the number of goods you can purchase based on the current market prices for your income is called as real income. Meaning, a person is getting every month 20,000, regular fixed income. For 20,000 rupees, how many goods he can buy in the market on that day based on the prices? Either real income. Why real income keeps on changing? Prices keep on changing. Why prices keep on changing? Demand and supply are not equal. Why demand and supply are not equal? Because resources are limited, needs and wants are unlimited. Got the logic? So this is the concept of income from which questions are asked. One of the previous year questions based on labor force and workforce. What is the previous year question, sir? If percentage of workforce in a country increases, its per capita income may increase. So look at the word may increase. Yes? What is the meaning of Viksit Bharat by 2047? We want to increase the percentage of workforce to 60 to 65%. Dependent population would reduce to 20 to 25%. Our overall GDP would increase. Our per capita income would increase. Our GDP is expected to touch $36 trillion. How much, sir? $36 trillion expected to increase. So India would become high income country or developed country. That's only called as Viksit Bharat. So probably when you retire from civil services, so in your retirement function, you'll be telling, while you are preparing for prelims, you are suffering from middle income trap. So today I am happy to announce that India became a developed country, which came out of middle income trap. Understood? Goldilocks economy, expected prelims question. Middle income trap, expected question. These are interrelated concepts of income. Goldilocks, L-O-C-K, Goldilocks economy. Okay? Now, if you are able to understand all this, now real crux, this is the real crux. Measurements of national income. So what are these measurements of national income? No need to by heart, just understand the logic. GDP, in GDP, potential GDP, nominal GDP, real GDP, green GDP, and current affairs, gross environment product. So concept of GDP. So one of the regular repeated prelims question, if you are following previous year questions, Simon Kuznets developed the concepts of GDP, GNP, NDP, NNP to understand economic growth. So what is the definition of GDP, sir? Total final value of goods and services which are produced in one financial year in, very important for the prelims, domestic economic territory. Look at the word. D does not mean only literal meaning of the English word domestic. D really means in one financial year, total final value of goods and services produced which are finished at their market price in domestic economic territory. What is meaning of domestic economic territory, sir? Any economic activity which happens in political frontiers of a country. Political frontiers means within the boundaries, political boundaries of a country. Which means if economic activity happens in the political boundaries of that territory, it should be considered in GDP calculation. Number 2, consulates, embassies. Look at the word. Consulates, embassies, military establishments, even though located outside a country, still they are considered as part of domestic economic territory. Now what's meaning of this? Indian IFS officer is working in Indian embassy in Afghanistan. Indian IFS officer is working in Indian embassy in Afghanistan. Should we consider this in India GDP or Afghanistan GDP? India GDP only. The reason being, even though consulate, embassy, military establishment located outside, for GDP calculation, it is considered as part of domestic economic territory. Did you understand what I'm saying? Opposite example. American ambassador is working in American embassy in India. Should we consider or we should not consider in India GDP? We should not consider India GDP because it is domestic economic territory of USA. If our IFS officer is working in our embassy in Afghanistan, we consider in our domestic economic territory. Meaning if American ambassador is working in American embassy in India, that is definition of America's domestic economic territory. Did you understand? Why we are excluding this, sir? Because for GDP calculation purpose, it becomes the definition of DET of America. Third, very important, what is included, what is excluded for prelims. If economic activity happens in territorial waters of a country, that also should be considered as part of domestic economic territory. Fourth, oil rigs, aircrafts, look at the word, oil rigs and aircrafts, vessels, whenever we talk about, if resident is the owner of them is resident of a country, then that should be calculated as part of domestic economic territory. So I repeat once again, what is the meaning of domestic economic territory? Sir, very simple. For calculation of national income, we have to consider economic activities. D means what? Domestic. What is the meaning of the word domestic? Here, domestic literal word is inside India. But actually, if you look at the definition for GDP calculation is DET. Domestic economic territory includes economic activity happened in political frontiers of that country, economic activity in consulate, embassy, military establishment, even though located outside. Third, if economic activity happens in territorial waters, and in case of oil rigs, in case of aircrafts, or in case of vessels, or in case of floating platforms, if the owner of them is resident of that country, that should be considered as part of domestic economic territory. Now, how questions are being asked in this, sir? For India's domestic economic territory, what is included, what is excluded? American embassy income should be considered in India's domestic economic territory or not? We should not. Why? That should be excluded because that is domestic economic territory of USA. Should we consider Indian embassy work in Africa? Yes. Why? Even though our embassy is located outside, for DET calculation, it is considered. That is the meaning of the word D, domestic. Clear? Regular repeated prelims question. In GDP calculation, domestic economic territory, what is included, what is excluded. Now, one more example to understand. Here, if you look at territorial water, what is the meaning of territorial water? From coast of a country up to some nautical miles is called as territorial water. If any economic activity happens inside that, also we should consider. Last, oil rigs and vessels. If the owner of that is resident, look at the word, owner of them is resident. Meaning, in that financial year, for an individual or organization, taxation purpose, if they are registered, they are incorporated and stay for more than half of the days in a country, they are classified as resident. What is called as non-resident? Who is called as non-resident? In one financial year, for more than half of the days, if he stays outside, they are called as non-resident. So, very simple example to understand what is included, what is not included. If goods and services are produced inside our boundary, political frontier, considered. Our embassy is outside, then also is considered. Economic activity in territorial water, then also considered. But in case of these oil rigs and vessels, you have to look at who is the owner, under which country classification he becomes resident. Wherever he becomes resident only, it should be considered. In polity, you'll study citizens and aliens. Citizens and aliens is classification for civil and political rights. Resident and non-resident is classification for economic calculation. Look at the clarification. Citizens and aliens is for political and civil rights. Whereas for economic calculation it is resident and non-resident. If you just understand this theme, then you will understand GDP. What is GDP, sir? In one financial year, in domestic economic territory, total final value of goods and services which are finished at their MP. What is the meaning of MP? Market price. One more regular repeated theme in the exam. Factor cost, basic price, market price, constant price. Regular repeated prelims themes. Now what is GDP definition? I said total final value of goods and services produced. Quantity at what price? MP, market price. That is the definition of GDP. Now let me complete them first. What is factor cost? What is basic price? What is market price? What is constant price? So if you look at factor cost, FC it's called as. So what are the factors of production? Land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship. To produce one final product, for the factors of the production, how much is spent? That is called as factor cost. I am wearing a shirt. To produce one shirt, how much I have spent for factors of production? What are some factors of production? Land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship. Rent, salary, interest for profit is called as factor cost. It's referred as at the rate FC. We go to a tiffin center. To produce one plate masala dosa, how much the cost expenditure incurred is called as factor cost. It is called as at the rate FC. For factors of production, how much expenditure you incurred to convert raw material into finished product. Next level is called as basic price. Now what is this basic price, sir? To produce goods and services, you must take permission from the government. You are supposed to pay applicable license fee and you are supposed to pay production taxes to government. So how do I get basic price? Apart from factor cost, the manufacturer is supposed to pay production taxes to government. And for encouraging certain sector, government is providing subsidies also. Let me take an example of Mahindra electric vehicle. To manufacture an electric vehicle, what Mahindra is spending on factors of production is called as factor cost. But to get this license, it has to pay taxes to government, which is called as production taxes. To encourage electronic industry, to encourage electric vehicle industry, to encourage clean energy, government may give subsidy sometimes, government may not give subsidy. Wherever subsidy is applicable, we will arrive at a basic price. Now what's meaning of this? To manufacture an electric car, for Mahindra, factor cost is say 10 lakh. Do you think Mahindra will sell that car above 10 lakhs or below 10 lakhs? Not only about 10 lakhs, dear. For this 10 lakhs, they have to pay production tax of 2 lakhs also. And they are getting around 50,000 subsidy. So Mahindra will never sell any car below this. This is the basic minimum. That's why that is called as basic price. Because it sells below this, it will get loss and it has to be closed. So it does not want to close. So factor cost, basic price. Market price. Finally, what we are paying? MRP, inclusive of all taxes. What is market price? The price at which exchange of goods and services happening by considering, look at the word, by considering basic price and taxes applicable on the product. Very important for the exam. Product means individual product which we are buying, and if at all any subsidy is given on that individual product, remaining is what is paid in the market by the consumer. That's why that is called as market price. So I am the consumer. I am buying electric car from the showroom. Showroom fellow is fixing my price as market price. From where this showroom dealer is getting from? Mahindra basic price. However, on consumption of goods, whatever GST is applicable, who's supposed to pay? Consumer. So that is the tax applicable on the product. And sometimes on the product also government would be giving some subsidies, that is called as product taxes. So there is a link between factor cost, basic price, market price. Which of the following statements are correct? Regular repeated themes. If factor cost increases, basic price may increase. Yes, because factor cost is part of basic price only. Yes, very good. Factor cost is part of market price. Very much dear. Factor cost is part of basic price is part of market price. Understood? Now, what is the meaning of GDP? Total final value of goods and services produced at the rate what price? Market price. That's why that is called as Q into MP. Q means finished goods. MP means market price. So, if this is clear, GDP can be estimated at FC. FC means what? Factor cost. BP means what? Basic price. MP means what? Market price. Now, if this was clarity there, types of GDP you will easily understand. What is nominal GDP, sir? Total final value of goods and services produced at their market price in all the sectors is called as nominal GDP. However, sometimes it so happens that GDP can increase, nominal GDP can increase, not because of increase in production of goods and services, but because of increase in market price. So earlier, we produced 10,000 goods, market price was 20 rupees. Now we produced only 7,000 goods, but market price is 40 rupees. So look at the GDP, nominal GDP would increase. So earlier 10,000 goods we produced, market price was 20. Now we produced only 7,000 goods, but market price is 40. So nominal GDP would increase. But actually what happened to production? Quantity produced decrease. To know the reason why nominal GDP is increasing, is it because of increase in production or is it because of increase in price? We also calculate something called real GDP. What is real GDP? Estimation of finished value of goods and services at a constant price. What is constant price, sir? Factor cost, basic price, market price. So constant price or CP is the price of the base year, which is taken as the reference for national income estimation. In the recent times, a stable financial year in which conditions are normal in primary, secondary service sector for comparison purpose is called as base year. The prices of the base year which are taken for reference purpose is called as constant prices. So what is real GDP, sir? Nominal GDP. At what price you are estimating? Constant price. Why? What is the reason? Nominal GDP may be misleading because market price may be increasing. In simple, market price includes inflation also. So sometimes nominal GDP may increase not because of increase in production, but because of only increase in market price. So this will lead us to one very important topic in regular repeated prelims theme called GDP deflator. So what is GDP deflator? Analyze nominal GDP, analyze real GDP. What is nominal GDP, sir? Just now we talked about quantity produced at what price? Market price. What is real GDP? Quantity produced at what price? CP. Why? Market price may include the inflation also, because of which overall nominal GDP may appears to be more. So that is the reason why real GDP is also calculated. So deflator means what? Whatever impact of inflation is there, that impact of inflation we are adjusting in GDP deflator. How, sir? By comparing nominal GDP with real GDP. Quantity is same, But one is market price, one is constant price. Market price includes inflation. That's the reason why when you compare nominal GDP and real GDP, we will understand how much is the impact of inflation on calculation of GDP. That's why that is called as GDP deflator. Very easy concept only, regular repeated question. Sir, hypothetical question. Can GDP deflator be 1? GDP deflator has to be 1 means nominal GDP and real GDP should be equal. Meaning market price and constant price supposed to be equal. Will it be equal in practical? No, because inflation is supposed to be 0. So inflation supposed to be 0 means economy should go into depression. In practice, do you think it's possible? No, that is the concept of GDP deflator. Able to make some sense? I assume that you know already basics because it's not a regular class. That's the reason why I am covering only consolidation part. Now how questions are being asked? Factor cost, basic price, market price, constant price, clear? Now current affairs theme. What is the current affairs theme, sir? We have been following base year of 2011-12 because of which expected theme IMF has given C rating to India's NSO for national income estimation. International Monetary Fund has given C rating, second lowest rating for India's NSO, National Statistical Office, for estimation of national income. Meaning, the data given by NSO seems to be not so reliable. The data given by NSO seems to be not so accurate. The reason they specifically mentioned base year is very much outdated. So which means you should revise your base year, you should improve your statistical methods, you should reduce inclusion exclusion problems so that our data would become realistic. So then Union Finance Minister said there is a proposal to revise the base year from 2011-12 to 22-23. The process may be completed by 2026. The process may be completed by 2026. I repeat once again. For NSO, we have been following the base year 2011-12. From when? From 2015. Till then, we did not revise the base year at all. So, government announced to revise the base year from 2011-12 to 22-23. The process may be completed by 2026. Current affairs theme. IMF has given which category rating to India's NSO? C rating, second lowest rating. The reason for this is inclusion exclusion errors, time lag in data, and the lack of accurate information. Apart from that, too much overlapping, and in simple they say NSO should update its base year, NSO should improve statistical models, NSO should focus on collecting the data from realistic real-time manner. That is the reason why our NSO, you will be surprised. NSO predicted our GDP growth rate next year would be 8.4. On the same day only IMF has given C rating to India's NSO. Means what? Hey, don't trust all this. Means our government is saying we will grow by 8.4. Immediately IMF is saying don't trust all this. That is the meaning of it. Understood the link? So this is called as nominal GDP, real GDP. One more regular repeated theme. Potential GDP, green GDP. Potential GDP. Maximum GDP a country can achieve if workforce is more, dependent population is less, with the optimal use of resources. Is called as potential GDP. However, trap in the prelims. There is no clear mechanism to estimate potential GDP. How many hours you can study in a day? How much is the potential, maximum potential? 24 hours. Come on dear. Potential is 24 hours. 24 minutes, sir. Can you estimate? No, sir. Potential is an ideal condition where workforce is more, dependent population is less, no extreme conditions in primary sector, secondary sector, service sector, and no overaction by Trump uncle like H1B visa, tariffs, all this. If conditions are normal, how much maximum GDP you can achieve? That is called as potential GDP. Green GDP. What is green GDP, madam? In the process of economic growth, we are causing damage to environment. Opportunity cost of damage happened to the environment in achieving GDP should also be estimated, which is called as green GDP. Meaning, yes, our GDP growth rate is 6%, 7%, no doubt. But to achieve that GDP growth rate, how much the forest cover earlier, how much the forest cover now? Also estimate. Because your GDP is growing means what? Urbanization, industrialization, agricultural land is being converted for industries, green cover is being reduced, pollution is increasing. So estimate that also. That is called as green GDP. Now all concepts about GDP is clear. GDP, nominal GDP, real GDP, GDP deflator, potential GDP, green GDP. Now recently one more product in the news, current affairs. Gross environment product. What is this gross environment product, sir? For natural resources also, we will give the value. And if they are being explored, if they are being used, we will calculate how much loss also happened to the environment, which is called as gross environment product. Meaning, for forest, we'll give value. For water bodies, we'll give value. For resources, we'll give value. In the process of economic growth, we're consuming it. Means your gross environment product is value. Whether how much was the value earlier, how much is the value now. This is called as GEP. Gross environment product. Clear? Now, if you just understand GDP, GNP is very simple. Comparison is asked in the prelims regularly. So what is the comparison, sir? In GDP calculation, total final value of goods and services produced in domestic economic territory is considered. In GNP calculation, total goods and services, look at it. In GNP calculation, total final value of goods and services produced in a financial year by residents of a country, whether inside India as well as outside, is also considered. So look at the definition. Total final value of goods and services produced inside domestic economic territory at their market price is called as GDP. What is given importance? Domestic economic territory. In GNP calculation, what is given importance? Total final value of goods and services produced by, look at, trap in the prelims, not nationals, residents, not nationals, residents of a country in one financial year, in India as well as abroad. In India as well as abroad. So I'll give a simple example, you'll understand. Just because N is there, it's not national, it is resident status. What is the meaning of resident status? For more than half of the days, if a person is staying in our country, they will become resident. In GDP calculation, if you look at goods produced within India are considered. In GDP calculation, goods produced within India are considered. Yes, in GNP calculations also, goods produced within India by whom is considered? Residents. Very good. So in GDP calculation, goods produced outside is not considered. But in GNP calculation, goods and services produced by residents outside is also considered. Goods produced outside domestic economic territory is not considered in GDP. Whereas goods produced by residents of our country outside is also considered in GNP. So in simple, when economic activities are happening, there is a concept called net factor income from abroad. Heard about this net factor income from abroad? So what is this net factor income from abroad? Very simple concept where our residents are getting income from foreign country. Similarly, foreign people are getting income here. Whether outgoing is more or incoming is more. The difference is called as net factor income from abroad. What is net factor income from abroad, sir? Very simple. How our residents are earning income in foreign territory. Foreign country people also are earning income in our territory. So whether incoming is more or outgoing is more, that is called as net factor income from abroad. Now, what exactly the meaning of the word net factor income from abroad, sir? It is the difference between income earned by our country residents from foreign country minus income earned by foreign residents in our country. Now, the difference is called as net factor income from abroad, income earned by our residents abroad minus income earned by foreign residents in our country. So how do we get GNP, sir? Apart from GDP, we should also consider net factor income from abroad, which is the difference between income earned by, look at, our residents abroad and the income earned by foreign residents in our country. If you add to GDP, you will get the GNP. Because in GNP calculation, we are not only considering goods and services produced by residents in our country, but also abroad. This is the link between GDP and GNP. Trap in the prelims, in GNP calculation, it's not nationality, dear. It is resident. That is the only difference. In GDP, what is important? DET is important. In GNP, what is important? Resident status is important. If you just remember that, no. Previous year question. NRI income, will it be considered in India's GNP or not? So think and tell. Who is called as NRI? Non-resident Indian. Who is non-resident Indian? NRI. For more than half of the days, they are staying outside. So what is the GNP definition? Economic activities of residents. So should we consider NRI income in GNP or not? No, because they are not part of resident. So where, in which country GNP they are considered? Yes. They are not resident for us. Means for some other country they are resident. Got clarity? So this is GNP GDP comparison. And previous year question, why GDP GNP only are used for economic growth comparison? Why NDP NNP are not used for economic growth comparison? That is because in the process of production of goods and services, there is a loss for the value of the capital goods which are used, which are called as depreciation. In so many plants and machinery, you are using raw materials. Along with the raw materials, we are using capital goods. What is the meaning of capital goods? Goods which are used in production of the other goods are called as capital goods. What are called as consumer goods? Which are used for end utility is called as consumer goods. Which are ready for consumption is called as finished goods. Which are yet to become finished is called as intermediary goods. So now, how do you get NDP? In the process of producing GDP, whatever machines which are used in the production process, their value got decreased. So at the end, what is the real impact? That is called as NDP. How do we get? From GDP we are subtracting. How do we get NNP? From GNP we are subtracting depreciation. Accounting standards vary from country to country. Depreciation vary from country to country, because of which NDP and NNP are not used for economic growth comparison, because we can compare only if similar economic conditions are there, only if base is same. So previous year question, why NDP and NNP is not used for economic growth comparison? Answer, depreciation vary from country to country, because accounting standards vary from country to country. So if rules are different, you cannot compare the two different games. That is the reason why, for all practical comparison purpose, we are comparing GDP and GNP only. Recent, India has emerged as 4th largest economy in the world by overtaking Japan. Correct only? In terms of what? Nominal GDP. In terms of what? Nominal GDP. Meaning when you calculate nominal GDP, first, second, third, earlier we were 5th, now we have become 4th. That's what government data says. So this is measurements. Very important, very easy. No need to by heart. Look at the logic, you can able to get the answer. Now regular repeated question. Methods of national income. So if you look at income method, expenditure method, production method. So what is this income method? In one financial year, total return received by factors of production in the process of economic activity are called as income method. So what are factors of production? Land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship. Total rent, total salary, total interest, total profit. Add all of them in 1 year. That is called as national income method. If you are getting income means expenditure for somebody else. Here only two words. Trap in the prelims. Last year question also. Circular economy and circular flow of money. Circular flow of money means money is moving from one person to other person when exchange of goods and services happens. Income of one person is expenditure of other person. That is called as circular flow of money. Morning I booked a Rapido. So expenditure for me, income for Rapido. So he is giving that money to petrol bunk. Petrol bunk is giving that money to petrol bunk worker. He is going to fruits and vegetables. Money is moving. That is called as circular flow of money. Circular economy means reducing wastage through reduce, reuse, recycle, rejuvenate, refurbish. That is called as circular economy. This is called as circular flow of money. Previous year question trap. What is circular flow of money? In any economic activity, income of one person is expenditure for the other person. Money is moving from one to another. Circular flow of money. Imports of one country is exports of other country. Savings of one person is investment for other person. So one person's deposits is loans for other person. Taxes paid by taxpayers' money is used for the welfare of the others. All these are examples of circular flow of money. Expenditure method. In one financial year, total expenditure spent by the government, consumer final expenditure, investors final expenditure, government final expenditure, and exports and imports. So our exports are increasing means when can our exports increase? First you have to produce. When can we increase our exports? First you have to produce. If a country's exports is increasing means what? Domestic production increased only. M means what? Imports. They are importing from foreign country means not our GDP is increasing. Their country GDP is increasing. So what is expenditure method? In one financial year, total consumers expenditure, investors consumer expenditure. Why we separated? A person may be investor for something, maybe consumer for something else. Government expenditure, both on capital expenditure or revenue expenditure. X means exports, M means imports. So how the question was asked? If X equals to M, previous year question, if X equals to M, what is national income in expenditure method? C, C plus I, C plus I plus G. Previous year question only. Very easy question. Then production method. What is production method? In one financial year, total final value of finished goods and services at what price, madam? Market price is only referred as production method. So NSO follows what type of method in estimation of national income? Combined method or mixed method? Because in different sectors, we follow different methods. The reason why NSO follows what type of method? Combined method or mixed method in estimation of national income. Clear? Is also regular repeated prelims question from exam perspective. Now apart from that, business cycles, recovery, changes that happen in estimation of national income. So that you'll get a full clarity on national income now. Probably I hope you're able to make some sense. Yes? To understand all this class, you should have read at least one of the concepts. You should know about the concept. Then you will get the link. Because this is revision class, not regular class. Correct only? But those who are not able to catch up, don't worry. Recording will be available to you. So read one's concepts, look at the class again and solve the previous year question. The more you do the cycle, the clarity would improve. Now if you look at boom, slowdown, recession, depression, double dip recession. Now what is boom? year after year, if GDP growth rate is continuously increasing, which is a positive trend compared to others, that is called as boom. Meaning, earlier GDP was 4%, next 10%, next 16%, next 24%. So GDP growth rate is continuously increasing. Means production of goods and services is increasing, economic activity is increasing, employment opportunities is increasing. So that is called as boom in the economy. Starting of the class, first 20 minutes, concentration is boom stage. After 10 minutes, what will happen, sir? GDP growth rate is positive. GDP growth rate is positive. However, this growth is less compared to previous. Growth is less compared to previous. That is called as slowdown. I'll give the numbers, you'll understand. Earlier GDP growth rate was 10%. Next GDP growth rate is 14%. There is a 4% growth. Next, there is a GDP growth of 15%. Growth rate is there, but this growth rate is less compared to previous. That is called as slowdown. Still we are growing. Traffic is more, so speed got decreased. Still we are moving. That is called as slowdown. Recession. Previous year question. Technically, for 2 quarters, means any 2 quarters, for any 2 successive quarters, if growth rate is negative, technically that is defined as recession. Meaning April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December, January, February, March. For any 2 successive quarters, when you calculate GDP, if growth rate is successively negative, look at the word negative. What is the meaning of negative? Production of goods and services got decreased from previous. Earlier, we produced 10,000 goods. Market price is 10. Now we produced only 3,000 goods. Market price is 15. If our GDP growth rate is less than the previous, only growth rate becomes negative. If growth rate is negative for 2 successive quarters, any 2 successive quarters, then that is called as recession. Depression. If recession continues for prolonged time, for continuously 3.5 years or 3 or 4 or 5 years more, then that is called as depression. After World War II, great economic depression happened in the world. Double dip recession. Before we recover from the previous, we are falling back and again into the same. So it means before we recovered completely from recession, we are falling back into recession. That is called as a double dip recession. Meaning earlier you were suffering from malaria, before you recovered typhoid came. Before you recovered chikungunya came. Double dip recession. Okay? Regular repeated question. If economy is witnessing boom, what happens to inflation? Expected to increase. Because boom means what? Income of the people is increasing. GDP is increasing. So what happens to spending also? So generally in boom, what is expected to happen to inflation? Inflation is expected to increase. What is expected to unemployment in case of recession and depression? In case of recession and depression, what is expected in case of unemployment? Unemployment is expected to increase. Previous year question. Business cycle, impact. Then the word recovery. What is the meaning of recovery? How much time economy was able to recover? Based on that, V-shaped recovery, K-shaped recovery, L-shaped recovery, W-shaped recovery, Z-shaped recovery, U-shaped recovery. Shapes are not important for us, but it just indicate how much time it has taken for the sectors to revive fast. That is called as recovery of the economy. Recovery means getting back from previous stage is called as recovery. So which means from slowdown, economy is recovering. From recession, economy is recovering. But we are not in the word recovery in case of boom. Okay? Only one question was asked earlier. Because our finance minister used the word V-shaped recovery in budgetary speech long ago. Immediately after COVID-19. That year, the question was asked. Recently, our finance minister spoke about which type of recovery. V-shaped recovery. So, just look into the shapes. Some cases, recovery is stagnated. No recovery at all. That is called as L-shaped recovery because recovery is not at all happening. So, U-shaped recovery, taking lot of time to recover. That's why that is called as U-shaped recovery. W-shaped recovery, double depreciation. K-shaped recovery, some recovered much faster, some are negative growth. Quick recovery called as V-shaped recovery. No need, just you need to understand the word recovery. So I'll explain income and expenditure method once again. See, if a hotel is producing goods and services, meaning income for somebody, the consumers who are coming to the hotel, expenditure for income of one person is expenditure for other person. So in income method, in one financial year, total final value of goods and services are produced, meaning in the process of production of goods and services, we have used factors of production. What are factors of production? Land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship. Let's say in Hyderabad we produced 1 lakh scooters. Production is 1 lakh scooters. Production is 1 lakh scooters means to produce this 1 lakh scooters, somebody got income. Who got income? The raw material owner, manufacturer, producer, the plant, all this. Which means in the process of economic activity, in one financial year, when economic activity happened, add the income of all of them. That is called as income method. In simple, you are staying in the hostel. For your hostel owner, that is income. Can we say that? In 1 year, your hostel owner earned this much income means that is expenditure for those who are staying in the hostel only. For employees, we are paying this much. That is income of the employees. But expenditure for the whom? Employer. So in one financial year, in the process of production of goods and services, return received for them. Company made profit. When will company get profit? By production of goods and services only. So add income of all of them. All of them means what? Factors of production in 1 year. Now what is expenditure method? This is outgoing, disbursement. Because what does circular flow of money says? Income of one person is expenditure of other person. As a consumer, from last April 1st to March 31st, what all I have done shopping. That is my consumer's expenditure. A TV manufacturer, to manufacture the TVs, in manufacturing, he might be consumer, but he is investor. Government is spending means on what? Schemes and scams. I mean, should not write like that. Probably capital expenditure and welfare policy expenditure. From last April 1st to March 31st. You keep reading the budget. CAPEX. Capital expenditure. Welfare policy expenditure. Now, why are you considering exports and imports also, sir? The reason being, if our exports are more than our imports, expenditure burden the government would decrease. Because our exports are more, means our income is more. Whereas, if our imports are more, means you have to pay to the other countries. What happens? Our expenditure burden increases. That's the reason why we consider all this. Mixed method or combined method, meaning combination of any three methods. Because NSO follows combined methods means what? In service sector, we are following income method. In agriculture sector, we are following production method. In construction sector, we are following expenditure method. Meaning, an NSO is estimating national income rough estimates, probably primary, secondary sector. In different sectors, different methods are followed. Combination of them. That's the reason why we use the word mixed method or income method. Okay? So I think we covered all, including current affairs. But expected themes, Goldilocks economy, middle income trap. IMF has given C rating to India's NSO. There is a proposal to revise the base year from 2011-12 to 2022 to 23. Process may be completed by 2026. Then one small topic, GVA. What is this GVA, sir? Gross value addition. After 2015, we are calculating nominal GDP at market price. We also calculate sector wise, means primary sector, secondary sector, tertiary sector, GVA, gross value addition at basic price. So what is gross value addition? Total value of the finished products minus intermediary consumption. Which means to produce a particular finished product, what is the value of the raw materials we used? So when you subtract, we'll get intermediary consumption. Very simple example. So we produced dress metal cost is 1000 rupees. from this dress material, we made a Punjabi dress worth 2,500. So what is the final product? 2,500. What is the raw material we used? 1,000 rupees. So how much is the valuation that happened? 1,500. Like this in all the sectors. Primary sector also, secondary sector also, service sector also. That is called as GVA. Gross Value Addition. From 60 rupees sugar cane, we produced 100 rupees sugar. How much is the value addition? 40. From the sugar, we made chocolates worth 170 rupees. How much is the value addition? Like this in every economic activity, in primary sector, secondary sector, service sector, add the value that got added. That is called as GVA, Gross Value Addition. Okay? Then homework for today. So just look at economic survey, primary sector, secondary sector, service sector. From economic survey, primary sector, secondary sector, service sector, contribution to GDP and employment percentage. So just list out primary sector, GDP contribution, exact numbers. I told a rough number. So and employment contribution. Probably they might ask sometimes. Sectoral trend analysis, they might ask. Okay. Now what you supposed to do ideally after the class? Listen to class once again. And probably if your concepts are already clear, I assume that you have done already one round of the preparation. I covered PT 365 current affairs. PT 365 current affairs from national income chapter only. Apart from that, economic survey, national income chapter wordings. So that now when you read this, you will understand very easily. And try to solve previous year prelims questions, probably PPS, Prelims Practice Series. Okay? And I'll post national income previous year questions PDF. Don't worry. So this is my Telegram ID, IAS Educare. So in the Telegram ID, today only I'll post, don't worry. There will be a folder called economy folder. In this economy folder, so I'll post summary of the class, what all we discussed today, and also previous year questions on national income. So that when you practice it, you will get a clarity. Telegram ID name is IAS Educare. So in that economy folder will be there. I posted economic survey analysis also, budget highlights also. So just look at it when you are free. Not only economy, all current affairs I am posting. I think so. So you got some clarity about national income. See, it's very difficult to cover 20 hours class in 2 hours. I accept. But you need to understand the link. Only link you need to understand. If you are able to just get the thought in the exam, you will be able to solve the question. And no need to remember what all we discussed in the class. No need to by heart also what all we discussed in the class. Just get the concept correct. Okay? Probably tomorrow I'll try to cover inflation and monetary policy. Why I am telling? Read and come. Did you understand what I am saying? You are expected to read and come. So the class level would go to the next. So link will become much faster. For other students, if you feel that your concepts are not so clear, nothing to worry, no need to get afraid. Just brush up your concepts and wherever you are getting a doubt, you can get it clarified. Nothing to worry. Okay? So tomorrow I will try to cover inflation monetary policy. Our class will be like this only. Concepts, current affairs, current data. So that at a time, you will get almost, previous year questions also I covered, almost all the questions I covered. Only thing expected of you is, listen class once again, make a revision notes, solve the previous year questions. Okay? So 7 to 9 is okay? 7 to 9 is okay? Yes sir. On Mussoorie you have to get up at 4 o'clock only early morning. There will get up sir. Correct? So don't worry, fresh mind. So economy is not difficult. Unfortunately it is, people are making it as difficult. Only thing your concepts are clear. 99% answer will be correct. And then why 1% sir? Errors, bubbling, not clarity, are going back from one concept to other concept, interlinking, all this. First round, go for micro topic, previous year question. Once economy RRP classes are over, read entire economy, then solve overall economy questions. Complete all the GS third time, then solve overall previous year prelims paper. Got clarity? First micro topic, micro questions. Second time revision of entire subject, subject wise questions. Complete all for 3 times. After that, go for probably overall previous year questions. That is what is expected of you. So don't worry. Tomorrow, be prepared for inflation and monetary policy. Thank you.